All right, hello everybody, and welcome back to the Good Company podcast presented by First Equity Funding. I'm Jack Gailing, Senior Loan Officer, along with Ryan Comesso here, my partner, my office mate, my co-host. We're joined today by a borrower of mine, a client of mine, a friend of mine, Charles Puryear, lender, investor, father, hometown guy who has taken all of his experience in his neighborhood and turned that into a new journey, a great business for himself and for his future. So Charles, good morning. Thank you for joining us, and I appreciate the time.
Awesome. Good morning, guys. Thanks a lot for having me. Happy to be here.
Thank you for having us, and thank you for being here for sure.
Well, every time we get started, as you know, we do an icebreaker question. So behind our camera, we have James, one of our confidants here. So James, hit us with that first icebreaker question, my friend.
Alrighty. Here we go. So as a kid, Charles, what did you want to be when you grew up?
As a kid, so I absolutely thought I was going to be a sports broadcaster. I wanted to do like the whole play-by-play, and as I was kind of got older and got into high school and started talking more about it. And they were like, oh man, I think you got the voice for that. And, so on and so forth. So, yeah. And I even started, I think before I changed my major in college, I was a communications major thinking that I was going to do broadcast production. So kind of cool, learn how to edit and do some other things. But the plans, the cards were different, I guess. So, but
yeah,
no doubt.
That's funny
cool
that you say that. That's always my answer. I mean, that was my number one thing I wanted to do was coach and be a sports broadcaster. I thought that was like the best path ever, right? You look at somebody like John Madden or, somebody like that, and they become this legend in coaching, and then they can just go into this booth, they show up on Thursday, they do the Sunday game or the Saturday game, they go home. It's like, what a life, your favorite game, you've been playing it since you were a kid, and now you get to just, be a legend in coaching. Now you're a legend in, it's just that was my number one answer. So I'm glad you picked that. That's funny.
Just out of curiosity, did you have any particular person that you looked up to or listened to a lot, or like, I just just the only reason I ask is because I'm a huge Met fan, both of us. And our broadcast team, I think, is one of the best in sports, regardless of how good the team is, and whatever. We'll leave that for another podcast. But
it's interesting.
I love Gary Cohn. I think they're knowledgeable. And I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, and this will be a really interesting answer. But being that I'm a Durham guy and I'm a diehard Duke fan, I really loved listening to Woody Durham, who is the voice of the Tar Heels.
Okay.
So,
I'm sure
yeah, it was like, he's a legend in our area. And one of my earlier jobs was working at a place where they were like his office was. So I'd get to like walk around and hear him and see him and all these things. So seeing this figure and then listening to the football games and the basketball games and stuff like that,
Cool.
So
that's awesome.
Way cool.
I'm guilty of that too. I love listening to John Sterling, call Yankee games and stuff. So I think he's so funny. So I'm the same way. So yeah, great question, James. I appreciate that. And Charles, good answer. That's exactly. I think we should. Awesome. I think we share that answer with a lot of people.
I never thought about it as a kid, but that's awesome. That was awesome.
Yeah. So we've been working together a little over a year now, maybe even more at this point.
Yeah.
You have challenged me in a lot of ways and shown me through your own experience, just better ways to do my job, and whether, people take that as good or bad. I think that we've taken that and grown from it immensely. And it comes from a place of respect and working together. So I love it. But for somebody who knows you like I do, it's just, introduce yourself to, the guys in the room here, the people that'll be watching this podcast. You're on this show for a reason. You grew up in the area that you work in. You give back to the community. You have your network in your community. Can kind of just give us some background on your journey and how you got started and how much it means to you to work in your hometown and in your neighborhood.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So like you said, I'm a local guy. I'm born and raised here in Durham, North Carolina. and, went to school not too far up the road in Greensboro, North Carolina A&T, made my way back home and just kind of, figuring out what do you want to do after school, after college. And I was fortunate enough to link up with a good friend of mine who, had an opportunity that was working for a mortgage company, a local mortgage company. And it was a definite ground floor kind of a opportunity. I came in as a marketing rep, like a telemarketer. So, but I look at things as that was my way in, that was my opportunity. So I was going to make the best of it, and it led to a 20+ year career in the mortgage industry. And taught me a lot about renovation loans and different things. So that kind of learning that earlier on is what led me into what I'm doing today, as well as investing.
Right. And, athlete yourself, us as athletes, you're in a sales, position as a young guy out of college. You still have that fire. You still have that athletic competition, fire in you. How did that competitiveness, along with your knowledge of the local area, kind of get you started in your loan originating, business? Kind of what was your angle when you first started, and how you were going to gobble up that business as much as you could?
Yes, you are right. I was fresh out of school, fresh out of playing sports. But I always had this, burning desire to be the best at whatever I was doing. So when I got that opportunity, unfortunately for the other guys that were already there, they didn't know I was walking in, with a mindset of, yeah, I'm a telemarketer, but I'm gonna have your office by probably the end of the month. And that was just my mindset. Nothing against them, but I was
right.
And so it just led me to, it was a new business, but I learned, I just, read guidelines. I would go home and, I'm a young 20-something-year-old guy while everybody else is out having a good time. I'm reading guidelines and just trying to figure out, how I'm gonna get these loans through and what I'm gonna do. And it worked. That led me to being a junior LO and getting my own leads, to then eventually closing multiple loans a month, to, becoming a senior loan officer, to then bringing in my friends and teaching them. So I built the team around that. And, just from very early on, having an entrepreneurial mindset and just looking at how we were going to build and take things, if I had the opportunity, then let's all go, let's go get it. And that's really where that team, from being a part of a team, through all my years of high school, college, all those things, just I think really benefited me, and even where I am today.
Yeah, that's the number one thing you hear pro guys talk about, right? It's like when they retire, it's that locker room, right? They miss the locker room. NFL, NBA, they miss the plane rides, they miss the locker room. And I think if you can get to if you come from that kind of background, and that, especially at the level that you were at in the collegiate level, you're hungry for that all the time. So if you do have a taste of success and you have that door opening opportunity where you can bring on, your buddies and give them the same opportunities, if they grasp it too, wow, we really got something going here. And I think, that's just a true testament to, you being, giving back to the people around you, which is awesome. I guess how much of, your influence growing up, we talk about sports, we talk, you mentioned family a ton, 3 young boys now, entering their formative years. I mean, how much does, that your family and your influence around you drive you each and every day to, not only now, but, in that early time, like you said, young, maybe single, late 20s, early 20s guy, what was the drive? Was it always money? Was it always kind of just building the future? Kind of what kept you going in those, yeah, just, because the early LO times, there are those scary times. You're just calling one number, you're calling just a voicemail over and over again. Kind of what, we have a ton of people that'll be watching this that are newer, or, some guys in the room that are newer. What was that? What kept the fire lit? Obviously, athletic competition can only take you so far. What kept that fire lit?
Yeah. So speaking, from the loan side of it, I would say, well, first and foremost, it started with my parents. They were both very, very hardworking, 2 folks that I saw work their backsides off. And from, me growing up watching them work that hard, there was no way that I couldn't duplicate that. There was no way that I could look at them work and so hard to give me all these opportunities, where, I understood there were some sacrifices that were there for me to do certain things that I wouldn't, you're a kid, you're going to make mistakes, but, you're going to work hard. So for me, I think, just kind of taking the idea when I got into the mortgage world that I felt that everyone had deserved at least a shot at home ownership. Like, the opportunity, whether, you were qualified or not, I could help you and kind of give you some pointers, but be very direct and real with you. Right. I mean, if you're not there and you want to get there, I'm going to show you how to get there, but you got to be willing to, pull your bootstraps up and do the necessary things to get you there. So that has always been, I think, a driving force for me in the loan world. And as far as the motivation, I wouldn't necessarily, money comes with hard work, right? I mean, that's going to be there. And I think, I think more or less for me, it was the drive for security. And security to me meant different things in different phases of my life. So when I first started in the mortgage industry, I'm a single guy, got roommates, and I wanted to live somewhere nice. I wanted to go out and have a good time and not worry about, how I was going to pay my bills or could we have a good time. I wanted to be the guy to walk in the room and bring my friends along with me and things like that. So then when I met my wife, or she wasn't obviously my wife at the time, but my to-be wife, then I looked at things like in our conversations of, how am I going to take care of her? How am I going to buy a house to support our family when we have kids? How am I going to, start? So my mindset just continually, it was the same, and just the dedication of what you had to do, but just the why was evolving.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And you're talking, to two guys just getting started in the business, getting married this year, just kind of starting that whole journey. And I think, we're having a lot of the same conversation, and having a lot of that, where are we right now? And we discuss, market volatility and vulnerability and having that feeling as a loan officer, as a salesman, of not knowing what that next rate sheet is going to bring, not knowing what that next Fed, meeting is going to bring. Someone of 20 years experience plus. We had, our managing partner Christian on last week, same type of experience, and got his view, but coming from a different area of the country, different state, but same timeline. How has going through the crash in '08 as a loan officer, going through COVID as a loan officer and an investor now at this point, and now going through these inflation numbers and this current volatility, how can you draw upon your experience each and every day to kind of keep your head on straight and keep you on the forward movement?
Yeah, really just kind of psychologically thinking that there are going to be waves and you got to ride those waves. So they're going to be highs, they're going to be lows. And just don't overreact. Like, this is what I tell myself even many, many years later, even today. So I told myself that then, but I was also looking at all the things around me and what was happening and how I was going to adapt my business. Like if my business was one way and, you start seeing things happening, things changing, you can't stick with that. You gotta adapt to different things and different opportunities. So that's where in the, 07s and the 08s and things like that, I started digging into more building relationships with individuals and renovation. That's when I really started wanting to learn a lot more about renovation loans and helping investors and clients. That was just an avenue of business for me. And that kind of even held strong during COVID when we just went through it again, and even what we're going through right now. So I think just, really remaining locked in and focused and just, being able to adapt to the surroundings, what's happening around you.
Yeah. And it's so important to be that calming factor in an already crazy process to be the person that's holding, in some people's eyes, the keys to the house when really you're not, but you actually, you feel like you are as the bank or as the lender. To be the cool, calm, collected person in that, transaction, I think goes a long way. And I think that's where experience comes through the most, and having that, in the back pocket is massive, is absolutely massive.
I agree.
So with that said, I mean, you're on the phone just like us each and every day. I mean, what are the conversations like today? I mean, what are you hearing? What's the pushback? I mean, sticker shock. Obviously, now we're almost 2 or 3, 4 months into the sticker shock. It feels like, but kind of what are the conversations? Down in your area. What are people's reactions when you're on the phone with them?
Yeah. Well, I think we're pretty consistently all across the country getting the same thing. And it's like, what are rates today?
Yeah.
Like what's my payment going to be? What's this? What's that? So, I love, kind of just going in and digging in of saying, to someone that absolutely is vested in home ownership right now, the rate is not really going to matter. I mean, the rate is going to be the rate, right? I mean, if you're actually renting the rate, because at some point, someday, that rate's going to change. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, it could be years down the road. But, the one thing that is going to happen is you're investing in, your home. You're creating generational wealth for those who have never owned a home before and things like that. So the conversations is number one. I think for those who are versed on the market, we just kind of talk about, the different loan opportunities and kind of, what programs and what things are available for them. On the other end of that, where you've got someone that is maybe a little more on the qualification side, things are tighter. That's when rate really matters, right? I mean,
Right.
if you're qualifying, the housing market, the homes are getting more expensive even here, and the rates are going up. So that changes what someone's qualification, ability, how much they can qualify for. So
Right.
just, kind of helping, I guess, educate them on what's happening there. And if the time is right now, then awesome. If you need to take a little bit more time and save a little more money or things like that. So, it's a little all over the place with the conversations, but I think the one consistent is it is still a great time to own a home. So,
Yeah.
Never a bad time. I mean, I think, it sounds, and Charles, again, thanks, man, for taking the time. It's nice to meet you and have this conversation with you. Heard a lot about you over the last, year or so, and all good things. And, you can see that philosophically you very much are of the same mind as us and have that consultative approach in your as a loan officer, but also just as a person, family first, work and entrepreneurial spirit is very common, with the people that we've spoken to, obviously with Christian last week amongst ourselves. I mean, we're shake and move a little bit and figure ourselves out in our businesses as well. But I think it's interesting to hear you say that. And those are the people, I think that's a testament to you. And I think that's also a testament to the people, you personally, and also the type of person that survives in our type of business and in real estate in general is not only the savvy entrepreneurial type, but also the person that's willing to, take the extra step and educate somebody and think not so much just short term, like, yes, now is a great time to own a home. But if you can't right now, let's figure out the steps to get you, into that home in the future. So that's awesome. That's really good to hear.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, man. That's
it's like, you're a great, example, because you're not only doing it in the office, inside the four walls of an office, and educating people both conventionally and, somewhat on the private side with investment loans and stuff like that. But you're obtaining these loans and you're, using these funds yourself, so just to pivot, kind of, gears, you mentioned it a little bit earlier, you doing the investment loans similar to what, First Equity does, kind of got you started, got the wheels turning in your head, watching ththese guys do this for, buy 100, flip, put a 50 into it, flip for 250, kind of let's kind of hear the start of your own personal investment journey, how you got started. Obviously we've touched upon the beginnings of it, but what as a brand new investor, and how did you leverage your experience already that you had as the lender, in your hometown? What was, how did you use all your, personal network to get that started as well?
Yeah, that's a awesome question. So I took the same approach to my patience and the slow moving of growing my investment business, the same way I approached how I've grown and either did development for banks and different things like that, and the lending side, and that was just to learn, like really from the ground floor. So yes, you want to walk in and you want to go to the seminars, and you want to walk away with, how am I going to get the money? How am I going to flip, like the HGTV shows? I'm going to do 10 houses at once, all these other things. But for
Right.
me, I think it was first leaning on the local real estate agents in areas that knew the areas really well and where I wanted to go. They knew the market, and I also had appraisers that I could reach out to, so I would know what comps were looking like. I was just trying to build as much around me and learn as much around me as I could. So when I walked in, nothing is a sure thing, but I'm trying to make it as sure of a thing as I can. So the first house that we actually did, gosh, was probably like 2016, I think. And it was more of a opportunity because I knew a lot of stuff, but it was a family affair as well too. So my wife is an engineer, and she understands how to
Oh,
run
wow.
CAD and all these other things. So it was a fun family thing for us to sit at the table to do and look at this house. And I know the numbers, but she knows the design. And
Right.
and I'd sit down and watch her go to work with like this CAD and designing this house. And it was fun for her because she was able to utilize some old college tools and things like that work. So for us, it was a family thing, and it was nothing more than ever wanting to do, one a year or something like that. And my father-in-law actually came in and saw what we were doing and said, hey, my money's not, like, what if I invested in this and took some money out of the bank because I'm not making as much on that, how could we work this out? So it was a perfect storm of things to really, I'm seeing this, but it was going to be a teacher to me. Like, now
Right.
I had to go out and, folks that I had done renovation loans with, that talked to contractors. I met a local contractor who was more of a builder than a house flipper. He was a custom builder, but during that time, things were really tight. So he was pivoting on his business as well too. So it was just a perfect
Right.
storm to teach a lot. The first house that I ever did, it was probably, to the first time investor, they would have ran. I mean, the foundation was gone, the roof, like everything. I mean, joists were rotted out. It was, but I had seen it. I had sat down and talked to folks who had done that. So it was, I think it was the folks around me, like having a good core, good team around, and just something that was family fun. And it turned out where we, the first one we did, I think I over renovated it. That is possible to do. I did it
Which is a
exactly
thing
as
for
like
sure.
I would
Yeah,
want
yeah.
my perfect dream home to be. Uh, I think the lady who lives in the house probably still doesn't know that her ceiling is wired for speakers all throughout the house. but yeah. Anyway, it was that kind of thing. But again, it was a good teacher, and it kind of, as we did those more and more, it just taught me more. And so again, like I said, the patience of when I was finally ready to now incorporate the business, go in and now I have a good team around me to where I can take on multiple projects at a time and then do multiple in a year. And like these goals that we've kind of grown over the years, but it was just patience and waiting in that time to do it.
So a lot of people, and thank you for that. Like a lot of people talk about like after they got the first one, it was a bug, and I was off to the races after that. Like, did you find that, or did you find it was a little bit more of a deliberate part? Because you also have, you're not just solely investing. Like, you obviously have the other side of what you do too. So, like, how did you find that? Were you like, I can't wait, I want to do this all over again, or was it, I'm going to take a little bit more of a deliberate approach, especially because you said, you felt you over renovated.
Yeah.
When did you realize you over renovated?
Right. Exactly. And again, like I said, I mean, it's learning things. I think for me, it was more deliberate in being, like, yes, like when I did the one and when I got, when we showed it and the reception from it and everything was like, oh my gosh, man, you guys, like, the design, and seeing my wife like really do, her thing and being really impressed by that. Yes, it was like, hey, let's go. But then there's the part of me that says, okay, but let's be calculated with it, right? Let's kind of figure out, where these areas. Okay, so if I'm over here in this area where everybody already is, that means things are going to be a little more expensive on the front end over here. But can I test the boundary to go over this side of the street a little bit where, I can get the property for a little less, have my vision and things that are going here, leaning on the other crew to say, hey, what are comps looking like? So I feel like we were more calculated. Yes, we had the bug and wanted to keep going, but it was the self-restraint of saying, hey, let's just kind of be patient with it and not take on too much at this moment, this time right here. So that was just, I think our business plan for it.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Yeah,
I'm sure you had some horror stories on the lending side of things to help aid that deliberate mentality too.
Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, you learn from this, and if you're in this business enough, meaning not even just the lending side, but the investment side of it,
of course,
there are going to be pivots. There are going to be things that are going to be unexpected that are going to happen. And you just mentally prepare for it as best you can. And again, I think, even from finding, you may go through different contractors. I mean, I've had some horror stories with contractors that, we had to work through. So.
Yeah, I mean that you talk about your network. I mean, we've done multiple deals together, and our process now on deals, numbers so and so has become pretty down pat, right? I mean, it's a quick conversation of where our rates say, you have an idea of where they are. As long as I come up somewhere close to where you're going, we're going to be okay. And now it's all right. Scope of work, conditions list there. The conditions list went from this to this, so it's just about, if you're able to find a network of somebody that you can depend on that's going to come through, it's important. And I mention it all the time to, newer guys in the room, our relationship and even, people that we'll have on later on in the podcast. I mean, there's always going to be rocky situations. There's going to be conversations that nobody wants to have. That's the part of the business. But you being in that chair, just like I am, you came when we did have moments where we had to come together and come up with a solution, or I was dragging behind and I needed to get to where you were expecting us to be. You had no problem delivering that message. And again, maybe it's our athletic background, maybe it's us being in the locker room before, having that competitiveness or whatever. I didn't see it as, oh my God, this guy is absolutely acting like an animal, and he's demonstrative towards me and trying to talk down to me. I'm this young loan officer. It was like, no, it was like, listen. I know what I like. I know what I want. I've been doing it for this long, and I'm okay. I'm good at it. I want you to come and be at my level, and that's how I kind of saw it. And you gave me, it was tough love, right? It was Jack. You guys aren't meeting my expectation. This is our timeline. This is where you needed to be. And I said, you're damn right, 100%. And we got it done. And I'm such a better loan officer for it, but it's that kind of experience that we are trying to show people that you can have these kind of tough conversations with these people that you trust in your network and that you've gone through the wickets with and gone through the ups and downs with. Like you said, you have appraisers, you have contractors. I'm getting emails from the same contractors, from the same appraisers. We're trying to reach out and replenish everybody. You're not. When we talk to these people and, you're trying to build wealth for yourself and your family, you are, yes, 100%. But guess what you're also doing? You're giving your contractor some super steady business, 2 or 3 or 4 flips a year. Your title contact, your insurance contact, your appraiser contact, you're feeding this garden of, that is your network with each and every deal that you do. So if you can bring more and more people into that and help everybody share, I mean, it's a can't lose situation. And I completely agree with the way that you set your strategy up and then the way that you approach your business. And I applaud you for it 100%. So that's one thing I want to get, straight for sure. How are you seeing your market change as we're kind of moving through these untold times and markets on the rise? Maybe now some markets that rose are now maybe being tagged as declining markets because they weren't where they were maybe during pandemic, just post pandemic. And kind of what's the flavor of the market down there right now, and what are you seeing?
Yeah. So one of the things about the triangle that is, just an important piece in real estate and in what we do.
And not to cut you off, but just for people that don't know, the triangle is.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's Raleigh Durham. Yeah.
Right.
So the triangle area is Raleigh Durham, and what you have here is there are you have Research Triangle Park, which is a huge tech or just business area for tech companies, medical facilities like GlaxoSmithKline is there. So you have jobs, right? There's steady people moving to this area. You have top universities that are all surrounding you. So what that does, we're still battling just like everyone else, and that's the inventory issue. But what we do have in our market that I feel like is not catering to the decline of the area is just the amount of people that are still wanting to come here. So from that, it's going to be, where are they going to go? Where are they looking? You have, our community or our local, decision makers are, pivoting and allowing for, instead of, if you've got a plot of land, instead of just having the ordinance where one home can go there, you may be able to survey it off and put 2 there. And that's trying to help with the housing issue. I think in every area you're dealing with the tear downs and what people are looking to do. And, that's okay. I mean, some people's business is going to be that. They're going to look at the older home that's there that, they want to tear it down and put, 2, 3, 4 up. I think for us in our business, I'm more, because I'm a hometown boy, I'm more about the preservation of things that are going on around. So, I want to take that 1920s home and give it another 100 years, right? I mean, how cool is that to sit down and look at a home that was from an area that has so much history to it. And, we come in and give it that extra love that can someone can continue to appreciate and enjoy that home for many, many years to come. So I think, for the sake of continuing what we're doing as far as investors, as far as loan officers, real estate agents, insurance agents, like all those folks you named before, that are all benefiting and apart from what we're doing, our area and just our market will continue, I think, to support that.
That's awesome. That's great. And I mean, just to kind of, wrap us up a little bit, as we're kind of going, through here. I mean, we talk so much about this, the feeling of now, right? Now it's scary. Now it's, the grind out time. Now it's, being an educator and, like you said, we're, like you had mentioned earlier, you're doing a couple, presentations a month to various realtor shops. We're starting, a similar showcase where we're pushing our, kind of education background as well to various realtors, just showing them how to use investment financing and all that kind of stuff, which is, just different ways to pivot in your current market. So, we're talking about a lot now. Well, let's talk future just for a second. I mean, 5, 10, 15 years from now, like you had mentioned earlier, three young boys kind of going through. I mean, how much do you see you, obviously on Instagram and now you're seeing a lot of parents, oh, this is how I bought, this is how I showed my son how to buy a Tesla before he's 17, and he bought 3 washing machines and a laundromat and this, that. So just how much of the future do you see, bringing in your family again, showing the boys how to build something, but then also concentrating on yourself and your wife and your future as well, and setting your guys up for that back half, those golden years. What's kind of the approach going into the next, into the future?
Yeah. That is when you talk about what drives you, and like I said earlier, how what drives you evolves. You just said it right there. Those 3 boys to sit down. So my 14-year-old has been going with me to do this since he was, 6, 7 years old, right? I let him go into a house and swing a sledgehammer into a wall that we were demoing, which was the fun thing for a kid to do. But every house that we've gone in, I take him with me. He hears me on the phone talking to my contractors and just different folks. And even when I don't feel like I'm trying to, teach lessons, he's a kid. He's absorbing it. He's listening. He's hearing. He's seeing it. And I think the full circle moment of that is, all these different games and all these different avenues of things they can do. All of them were doing some, I don't know what game it was, but it was some investing thing where they were like, it was this, and how much money did we make if we actually invested in this and we did this? And I was just sitting there looking at my life like, well, I guess they do hear me more than I think they do,
Creative monster almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Three-headed monster. Yeah.
I don't really know what, their futures are going to hold as far as what they choose to do when they get older. But I know for me growing up, watching my parents and watching my dad, who was a car salesman for 20 plus years, and just watching how he took things to a whole nother level back in, the 80s, and, how he would, just go do more than the next person. I saw that, and I picked up on those things. So I just hope that, what I'm doing today, and how I'm handling and approaching, this business that we're growing, they pull pieces of that into whatever they choose to do in their life. From the financial stability and the security side of things, that's the other driving force of it. How can I, it's interesting, but I think about this all the time, Jack, that you said, my contractor, I use the same guy. I use the same team. I even sit down and I talk to them about, how much they can take on and other things that they can do, because, I want everybody to eat. I use the same insurance person. So, and then I expect, I'm going to be honest with you. So I expect you to be honest with me, right? If you've got to tap out, that doesn't mean that we're not going to do business together anymore. What it means is that you're saying to me, hey, go let someone else eat, let's spread this love around. And that way we can all continue to be successful. And that's just the biggest thing. And I got to go back and say, dude, you rock, Jack, because we have had some great, conversations, and it is like that team background, right? It's when you sit down and whatever sport you're playing and whatever you do, my dad's always told me be coachable, right? Like, and that means just, be able to listen to, the tough conversation or what someone says to you. And just because, they may say it to you and it's not the high five, you're the best on the planet or whatever it is. He was like, that doesn't mean you don't learn. And so what I picked up early from our conversations and our relationship is that, you are that guy. You are that guy that we can sit down and have a conversation with and see that, hey, listen, I have a goal and I have a plan, and, you, First Equity, and what we're doing together is a big part of that plan. And here's what I see. You tell me what we can do, and then let's meet in the middle and let's make this happen. Because that's what it is. We just got to make it happen.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's the perfect way to do it. I mean, and that's the perfect way to say it is that meet in the middle, right? And I appreciate it, the kind words as always, and but it is that relationship, right? It's I know where the market is, you know where the market is. Where can we meet in the middle and have those conversations? And again, it's been nothing great, but great times, for that. And I appreciate you, you saying that here today. It really means a lot for me. For sure. So I appreciate that. And Ryan,
Real
you have
quick,
anything else? Yeah.
I do actually. I think that really does. It's funny you say that, and I think again, just philosophically, it's funny to see how a lot of like-minded people end up working together peripherally and just finding each other. I say it all the time. I know Jack, whether he says it directly or not, thinks this way. We value the relationship, the overall relationship over one particular deal. And that is where you hit the nail on that, where you're talking about your contractor who may not be able to take on what you're bringing in at the moment. Like having that open conversation, that open dialogue, maybe even a tough conversation or a tough dialogue, but like knowing that that respect and loyalty is number one. I mean, it makes everything everything filters down from there. And like I said, I mean, there's been tough conversations I've had to have with people much like yourself, who I work with very, very regularly, and especially with these crazy volatile times we've seen pretty much this entire year. Like, if you keep that in mind, people respect that. And a lot of the times, even though we may not have done deals with certain people, it's in a certain amount of time, I'm usually still, or Jack's usually still their first phone call. You're probably still their first phone call. You know what I mean, Charles? Even if you can't get something done for somebody, like, and that respect, like I said, it is the biggest thing. And if you keep that in the forefront, I think the tough conversations are just a lot easier and come from a common place than, a combative place. Yeah. So it's great to hear you say that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I appreciate that and the reception on that.
Well, I mean, Charles, thank you again. I mean, I think this was a home run in my eyes. You were on the short list before I even mentioned it to any of these guys, when it was just still my only, thing. I had my little pet project at the beginning of the year. I know we discussed it. I mean, you hit it out of the park, and I think that you check all the boxes for what we're trying to get through to people and just get them to understand that, everybody gets the same rate sheet in the morning. Everybody gets the same, market information. Everybody gets the same, programs. Maybe somebody has theirs a little bit better, but when you break down this business and these transactions, it's a person-to-person business. And when you want to be in this type of transactions, you want to work with the good guys, and you, sir, are definitely one of the good guys. So I can't thank you enough for the time. And that's our time. If you have anything else that you want to close with, but again, I just can't thank you enough.
Anything you're working on at the time? Anything you'd like to get out there, promote?
5 minutes for your own promotions. Let it rip. Anything you got?
Yeah. Actually, well, first and foremost, again, I want to say it's a pleasure working with you guys. The relationship that we have developed over the last year has definitely afforded me the opportunity to push my business, push my goals, acquire more properties here locally that we're doing. We actually actively have 6 projects all going on in and actually in not just the Triangle, it's Durham, all right here locally. And they're going to range from things that are going to be, a nice starter home for someone to someone's, I think, go to, like, here's where I want to live, my life out home. And just the continued relationship and support from you guys at First Equity and Jack, that's really helped us drive this. So a big thank you to you guys. I enjoy working with you, and I see us doing a lot more business in the future.
What more can you ask than that? Great, Charles. Thank you. I appreciate it, man. We're going to close up now, but we're going to hold you just so we can finish the upload here on Riverside. But I think that's it for us.
Yeah, thanks again, Charles.
Thank you, Charles.
We'll see you guys on the next one.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.